The Galactic Council's dilemma. The vast expanse of the galaxy stretched out, a dazzling sea of stars, each representing the incredible diversity of life across countless worlds. Yet, despite the billions of intelligent species, only a select few had been granted membership in the prestigious Galactic Council. It was a council that governed not just the cosmos, but also the balance of power, knowledge, and culture. For centuries, the Council had maintained order through diplomacy, science, and mutual respect. Yet, when Earth was invited to join, it was clear to everyone that humanity had a lot to prove. I was the one who had been selected to represent Earth in this significant endeavor. My name is Jack Porter, and I am what the Council politely calls Earth's Cultural Integration Specialist. In simpler terms, I'm the one they send in when they need a human to navigate the delicate and often condescending world of intergalactic diplomacy. My job was to bridge the vast gap between Earth and the advanced civilizations that had long inhabited the galaxy. The council chamber was unlike anything I'd ever seen, a monumental sphere with multiple levels, each platform floating in space like some celestial arena. Every platform housed representatives from a different species, beings whose mere presence seemed to command attention. Some had limbs that spanned for miles, others were ethereal and shimmering, while a few appeared to be nothing more than energy forms, yet all radiated an air of superiority. And then there was me, a human, standing on a platform at the very bottom, my gaze craning up to meet the many eyes of these advanced beings. I could feel their eyes on me, sizing me up, already assuming that humanity's latest achievement was nothing more than an accident in the cosmos' grand design. To them, we were little more than the interns at a galactic board meeting, eager but utterly unqualified. Ambassador Porter, came a voice, crystalline and sharp, cutting through the atmosphere. I looked up to see Ambassador CCS, a towering figure made of gleaming crystal, their multifaceted eyes glinting in the light. Their voice was like a melody, an unsettling harmony that seemed to vibrate in the air itself. The Council has decided to grant Earth a unique opportunity to demonstrate its maturity. I smiled, the kind of smile that felt like it could fracture my teeth. That's wonderful news, Ambassador. We're always eager to prove ourselves. It wasn't much of a response, but it had to be enough. CCS, however, seemed to miss my sarcastic undertone entirely. They continued, their voice filled with a tone of barely contained amusement. Cultural Integration Specialist Porter, Earth has been selected to host this year's Intergalactic Cultural Exchange. I blinked. Host. As in, we're hosting the event. Yes, they responded, their voice growing more melodic. It is an honor, of course, but we believe your species' unique perspectives will make for an interesting experience. Behind CCS, a large blob of purple goo hovered, its many eyes glimmering with excitement. The blob, known as Ni, was Earth's official liaison to the Council. Ni was a creature of pure enthusiasm, an entity who constantly bubbled with optimism. Yes, exactly. The Council believes this is the perfect opportunity for Earth to showcase its understanding of galactic cooperation. The excitement in Ni's voice was palpable, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was going to be the worst event of my life. It was as if someone had handed us the Olympics, a World Cup, and every major international holiday, all in one, along with a strict rulebook that we were guaranteed to break within 5 minutes. I assume there are guidelines for the event. I asked, already dreading the answer. CCS nodded, a sharp glimmer of light reflecting off their crystalline structure. Indeed, we have prepared a series of guidelines, including 17,423 pages of instructions. I nearly choked. 17,000. Yes, CCS replied, looking pleased with themselves. It's a comprehensive list tailored specifically to Earth's needs. I could feel my headache starting. May I ask why Earth was chosen, Ambassador? CCS turned slightly, their body sparkling in the light as if reflecting the enormity of the situation. The Council believes that organizing a simple social gathering will be within humanity's limited capabilities. There it was again. That word. Limited. We've noticed that humans have an alarming tendency to ask, what's the worst that could happen? Just before causing major diplomatic incidents. CC has continued, their voice practically dripping with condescension. And that's why we've been so thorough. I bristled at the remark. That only happened twice, I shot back, my diplomatic smile tightening. And the second time doesn't count. The Zygon Empress still demands reparations for the whoopee cushion incident. The Council had never let us live that down. The Zygon's way of communicating involved controlled flatulence, something we had failed to understand during the exchange. The Council had been unforgiving. And the Zygon Empress, she had a very, very long memory. Yes, Cecilia said, their crystalline head tilting in a mock understanding. That incident still lingers in the galactic records. Nia bubbled in excitement. This time, everything will be perfect. We've carefully outlined everything. From airlock protocols to cultural preferences and dietary requirements. Airlock protocols for gaseous species. I echoed. How specific? Exactly. Nia chimed. Everything must be followed to the letter. For example, certain species must spiral clockwise or counterclockwise when entering a room. It's vital. I fought the urge to laugh. This was real. The fate of Earth's standing in the galaxy rested on whether we could organize an event where people didn't spiral in the wrong direction. It was absurd. So, I said, trying to focus, when would you like this event to take place? CCS tilted their head once more, their eyes reflecting a hint of amusement. The standard planning period is typically 15 solar cycles, they said. However, considering Earth's need to prove itself, we've decided to give you a month. A month. Of course, they had scheduled it for next month. Who needed time to prepare for the most complex intergalactic event in history? Certainly not humanity. How thoughtful of you to give us so much time, I said, trying to mask my growing frustration with another one of my diplomatic smiles. Indeed, CC's agreed, completely oblivious to my sarcasm. You'll find that this will be a chance for Earth to prove that it can follow simple instructions without turning everything into an interstellar incident. I left the chamber, my mind spinning with the enormity of what I had just agreed to. It was clear now. The Council had deliberately set us up for failure, but little did they know. Humanity was full of surprises, and if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was turning an impossible task into something unforgettable. I just hoped I wasn't the one to pay the price for it. Preparing for the impossible. The United Earth Embassy's basement cafeteria wasn't where dreams were made. No, it was where they went to die, along with any hope of finding edible food or feeling a shred of dignity. The fluorescent lights hummed above me as I entered the dimly lit space, casting a sterile glow on the chipped metal tables and aging vending machines that lined the walls. The air was thick with the scent of synthetic meatloaf, and the floor was perpetually sticky, as if the building had absorbed the failures of every intergalactic bureaucratic meeting that had been held within its walls. But this, for all its flaws, was where the magic was going to happen. I had a team to assemble, and this was where they worked. When you're tasked with an impossible mission, like organizing the most boring event in galactic history, you need the right people. People who can think outside the box, and sometimes, people who can break the box altogether. I spotted Jenny Torres at the far end of the room, her back hunched as she furiously tapped on her datapad. She was Earth's premier logistics expert, a force of nature when it came to planning and managing even the most chaotic of operations. There wasn't a problem she couldn't solve, provided you didn't mind her turning everything upside down first. Jenny was, in a word, brilliant, but more importantly, she thrived on impossibilities. And let's be real, this was going to be one of the biggest impossibilities in galactic history. I approached her, trying to keep my tone professional despite the whirlwind of panic brewing inside me. Jenny, I said, sliding into the seat across from her, how do you feel about being part of a mission that involves organizing the most boring event ever? Her eyes lit up as she glanced up from her datapad, her lips curling into a grin. "Wait, did you just say boring?" she asked, tapping her fingers on the table, each tap resonating like a drumbeat. "I thought we were going to bring chaos, a little flair, maybe a dash of unpredictability." "Not this time," I said, handing her a datapad with the Council's guidelines. "The Council wants us to be as predictable as possible, which means zero flair, zero chaos, just a perfectly normal, utterly forgettable event. At least, that's what they think." Jenny scanned the data, her eyebrow arching in disbelief. "Are you telling me that they want us to plan the most boring event in the galaxy? And they've given us, what, a month?" She shook her head. "Jack, we can't even schedule a casual office party in that time frame." "I know," I muttered, rubbing my temples. "I'm starting to think they're betting against us, Jenny." Ambassador Crick's assistant let it slip that there's an official betting pool going. The odds are stacked against humanity. She paused for a moment, the gears in her mind visibly turning. "Wait a minute. A betting pool. Against us." She leaned in closer, her grin widening. "Well, now I really want to be part of this." Before I could respond, another figure dropped into the seat next to us with a dramatic flourish. Marcus, our resident risk assessment officer, had arrived. Marcus wasn't just good at his job. He was exceptional at seeing every potential danger in any given situation. Whether it was a faulty airlock protocol or a diplomatic mishap, Marcus could predict it all. But what he was truly good at was making chaos seem manageable. "So," he said, settling in, "what's the plan for making sure that this event doesn't implode on itself?" "I'm all in, of course, but I'd like to know what we're up against. Risk assessment, and all that." I shot him a glance. "We have a month to pull off the most predictable, boring event ever. And apparently, this entire mission is being watched by the Galactic Council. No pressure." Marcus's eyes lit up as if a light bulb had just gone off in his head. "Ah, so we're being set up to fail. Nice. I love a good challenge." He smiled, a mischievous gleam in his eyes. "How do we make sure the failure is spectacular?" I stared at him for a moment. "Marcus, that is not the goal here. The goal is to make this event as dull and mundane as possible, without setting off an intergalactic war or embarrassing ourselves in front of the Council." Jenny chimed in. "We're supposed to make sure the event is so boring, even the most hyper-intelligent alien species can't find a single thing to complain about." "And you know what that means." I frowned, not liking where this was going. "What?" "It means we're going to break the system," she said, her voice gleaming with excitement. "If they want predictable, we'll give them predictable, but we'll make it so over-the-top predictable that it breaks their understanding of predictability. We'll follow the guidelines, sure, but we'll follow them to the letter in the most tedious, monotonous way possible." I stared at her, unsure whether to be impressed or terrified. "You're saying we should push the rules so far that we overwhelm the system with conformity." "Exactly," Jenny said. "If they want everything to be perfect, we'll give them perfect. And then some. We'll organize everything down to the smallest detail. We'll have spreadsheets for spreadsheets. Every meeting will be scheduled to the second. Every alien species will get a protocol manual so thick they'll have to cart it around in hover carts. And we'll make sure everybody follows the rules. No exceptions." Marcus rubbed his hands together, clearly enjoying the chaos that was brewing. "This is going to be fun. And when the Council realizes how much effort we've put into this, they won't know whether to be impressed or horrified." I sighed, realizing that Jenny was right. The key to surviving this event was to become so predictably perfect that it bordered on absurdity. The Council thought they were giving us a simple task to prove that humanity was immature and incapable of handling responsibility. But what they didn't realize was that humans thrived in adversity, especially when that adversity was cloaked in bureaucracy. "We've got 1 month," I said, standing up. "Let's get to work. And remember, we have to make it so boring that they'll never, ever ask, 'What's the worst that could happen?' again." With that, the team got to work. Jenny and Marcus immediately began creating an impossible number of spreadsheets and schedules, while I started to reach out to the other members of the team, all of whom had been handpicked for their ability to turn the mundane into the extraordinary. As the next few days passed, the preparation for the Galactic Cultural Exchange became more bizarre than any of us could have imagined. We had teams dedicated to perfecting the placement of chairs, to ensuring the exact right angle for every light in the room, and even to curating the most unexciting food options the galaxy could offer. The task was simple: make everything flawless, predictable, and above all, dreadfully boring. But we soon learned that the key to true creativity often lies in constraint, and we were about to take this constraint to a level the Galactic Council would never see coming. The strategy begins. The first few days after the Council's announcement were a blur of endless meetings and decisions that could not have been more trivial. We were well on our way to creating the most mind-numbing event in galactic history, and I wasn't sure whether to be impressed by our meticulous planning or to start questioning our collective sanity. But Jenny was right. This was the only way we could survive this absurd mission. Make it so predictable, so flawless, that it became its own form of rebellion. I sat in my office in the embassy, staring at the mess of spreadsheets, protocols, and guidelines spread out before me. Jenny's plans were already taking shape. Every detail was mapped out, every possibility accounted for. It was as if we were designing an interstellar theme park, but instead of thrills and excitement, we were building a monument to monotony. There was no room for improvisation, no space for spontaneity, just a perfect, flawless execution of blandness. But beneath the surface of all the precision, a creeping sense of purpose was forming. The more we followed the Council's instructions to the letter, the more I realized that this mission wasn't just about managing an event. It was about something far deeper. The Council had underestimated humanity's ingenuity. They thought we were too chaotic to handle such a sophisticated task, too unpredictable to fit into their neatly ordered universe. But what they didn't realize was that humanity had an uncanny ability to turn even the most rigid systems into something unexpected. "Jack," Marcus said, breaking my concentration. I looked up from the datapad, where I had been reading the latest set of guidelines. He stood at the door of my office, his expression serious. "I've been going over the risk assessments. The Council is planning to send their top cultural evaluators to the event, but they haven't told us exactly when they'll arrive. They're probably going to be monitoring us the entire time, waiting for us to slip up." I nodded grimly. Of course they will. They're looking for a mistake, but they won't find one. Not if we do everything by the book. I stood up and walked over to the large window that looked out over the bustling streets of Earth's capital. It was a beautiful sight, crowded, chaotic, and full of life. Unlike the sterile perfection the Council expected from us, Earth was anything but predictable. Marcus leaned against the wall, his eyes narrowing. "There's one thing that keeps nagging at me, though. You said we need to make everything boring, right? But I've been thinking, what if that's what they want us to do? What if they want us to fail, but not in the way we're expecting? What if the challenge is actually to find a way to be unexpectedly predictable?" I paused. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said, pushing off the wall and pacing, "what if the real test isn't making things boring? What if the Council is trying to make us stick to their rules to see if we'll do the unthinkable? What if we're supposed to break their predictability in a way that they can't anticipate?" I let the idea roll around in my head. It was brilliant, and it had the kind of audacity that only humans could pull off. The Council had been so focused on making sure we followed the rules that they hadn't considered that we might be able to break the system in a way that was so flawless, so precisely unexpected, that it would leave them speechless. "Okay," I said, the spark of a new plan igniting in my mind. "Let's do it. We're going to follow every single guideline, except for one thing." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "And what would that be?" "That's the twist. We're going to make everything so perfectly boring, so predictably dull, that they won't know what hit them. But at the same time, we're going to leave one thing, One tiny detail, out of place. Something so minor, so subtle, that it will make them question everything. Marcus grinned. Now that sounds like a plan. One tiny flaw, one unexpected break in the pattern. It'll drive them crazy. We'll set the whole thing up like clockwork, I said, my voice gaining confidence. The seating arrangements, the food, the lighting, the music, everything. It will be so perfect that it'll seem like there's no room for error. But at the very last moment, we'll introduce something so small, so insignificant, that they'll spend the entire event trying to figure out what's wrong. Jenny, who had been listening quietly in the corner, spoke up. I like it, but it's going to have to be something truly insignificant. If we make the mistake too obvious, they'll just think we messed up. It has to be something so subtle that they're not even sure it's a mistake. I thought for a moment. What if we set everything up according to the Council's specifications, but we place one item, just one, in the wrong position? Something that makes no logical sense, but that nobody notices at first glance. Something that no one would ever question, Marcus said. Something so minor that only the sharpest minds will pick up on it, and only after it's too late. Exactly. That was the key. We had to make it so flawless that even the slightest deviation would seem intentional. The Council would look for something wrong and fail to find it, only to realize, too late, that humanity had outsmarted them by making something so perfect, so predictably boring, that it turned the entire event into an enigma. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Jenny took charge of logistics, arranging every chair, every table, every piece of silverware in the exact order required by the Council's guidelines. She even went so far as to make sure the room temperature was adjusted to the exact specification outlined in the guidelines, and that the air in the venue circulated in the precise manner recommended for each species. Marcus, on the other hand, focused on the risk assessments, ensuring that every potential hazard, every possible slip-up, was accounted for. We were going to make this the most meticulously planned event in history. But as we worked, I couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was at play. The Council had given us this task because they thought we were incapable, because they thought humanity was too chaotic to ever follow through with such a monumental responsibility. But they had underestimated us. In the end, this wasn't about proving that we could be boring or predictable. It was about showing them that humanity had a strength they could never understand. We weren't going to follow their rules because they were right. We were going to follow their rules because we knew how to break them. And when the time came, we would deliver the most predictable, unpredictable event in the history of the galaxy.